The cabin lights glowed softly as passengers settled into their seats, the low hum of the aircraft wrapping the space in a familiar, restless calm. First class looked like a quiet sanctuary, wide leather seats, polished armrests, and the promise of a smooth flight above the noise of ordinary life. A woman in her early 30s adjusted herself into seat 2A, smoothing her jacket, her eyes scanning the cabin with measured confidence. She had short, dark hair, calm features, and the posture of someone used to being watched without flinching. Across the aisle, a flight attendant paused, her smile tight, her gaze lingering longer than necessary. The attendant's name tag read Allison, and her tone, when she spoke, carried an edge that cut through the gentle ambience. "Ma'am," Allison said, leaning closer than polite distance allowed, "I'm going to need you to move to economy." The woman blinked, surprised but composed. "I'm sorry," she asked quietly, removing one earbud. "There's been a mistake," Allison replied, her smile brittle. "This seat is for passengers who meet the requirements for first class. You'll need to get off my plane now and head back." A few nearby passengers glanced over, curiosity sharpening their expressions. The woman felt heat rise in her chest but kept her voice steady. "I paid for this seat. You can check the manifest." Allison's eyes flicked briefly to the tablet in her hand, then away. "We've already checked," she said quickly. "And frankly, these seats aren't designed for, well, everyone." The implication hung in the air, heavy and ugly. The woman's jaw tightened. "Are you saying I'm too fat for first class?" she asked, each word deliberate. Allison crossed her arms, lowering her voice as if that made it kinder. "I'm saying you don't fit the standard experience we provide up here. Please don't make a scene." A murmur rippled through the cabin. A man in the front row frowned. Another passenger shifted uncomfortably. And someone in the back raised a phone, pretending to check messages while recording everything. The woman inhaled slowly, grounding herself. She had dealt with worse boardrooms, harsher interrogations, and quieter insults wrapped in silk words. Still, this stung. "I am not making a scene," she said. "You are. If there's an issue, call your supervisor," Allison scoffed. "I am the senior attendant on this flight, and I'm telling you to move." The woman pressed the call button herself. The soft chime echoed like a challenge, then "Let's escalate properly." Moments later, the purser arrived, a tall man with graying temples and a practiced neutral expression. "What seems to be the problem?" he asked. Allison spoke first. "This passenger is refusing to comply with seating requirements. She doesn't meet the physical guidelines for first class." The purser turned to the woman. "Ma'am," she met his eyes, "I purchased this seat. I fit within it. My seatbelt is fastened, and I am not violating any safety policy. I'd like to know what guideline she's referring to." The purser hesitated. He glanced at the tablet, then back at Allison. "Allison, can you specify the policy?" Allison shifted. "It's common sense," she said sharply. "We need comfort and aesthetics up here." A silence fell, thick and uncomfortable. The purser cleared his throat. "That's not a policy." Allison's face flushed. "So you're just going to let her stay?" "Yes," he said firmly. "Unless there's a documented safety issue, which there isn't." Allison looked at the woman with open irritation. "Fine," she snapped. "But don't expect special treatment." The woman nodded. "I expect professional treatment. That's all." As the purser walked away, whispers spread. A woman across the aisle leaned over. "I'm sorry that happened," she murmured. "Thank you," the woman replied, offering a small, genuine smile. The plane began to taxi, but the tension lingered. Allison continued her duties with clipped movements, avoiding eye contact. Yet resentment simmered behind her forced professionalism. When drink service began, she skipped seat 2A entirely. "Excuse me," the woman said calmly as Allison passed. "I'd like some water." Allison stopped, turned slowly. "We'll get to you when we can." The man in 1C raised an eyebrow. She asked politely. He said. Allison stiffened. "Sir, please, mind your business." The woman placed her tray table down, hands folded. "It's all right," she said to the man. "I can wait." Minutes later, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom, welcoming everyone aboard and announcing a smooth flight. As the announcement ended, another voice followed, unexpected and commanding. "This is the owner of the airline speaking." The cabin froze. My daughter is seated in first class today, traveling anonymously as she often does. The voice continued. I've just been informed of an incident involving inappropriate treatment by a crew member. Allison's face drained of color. To be absolutely clear, the voice said, calm but cold, discrimination of any kind is unacceptable on my aircraft, especially toward a paying passenger who happens to be my daughter. A collective gasp moved through the cabin like a wave. The woman in C2 closed her eyes briefly, then opened them, expression unchanged. Allison, the voice continued, you are relieved of duty, effective immediately. Please prepare to disembark upon landing and meet with human resources. Allison swayed slightly, gripping his seat for balance. Sir, I didn't know. That's precisely the problem, the voice replied. You didn't know, and you judged anyway. The intercom clicked off. Silence reigned for a heartbeat. Then whispers erupted. The purser approached Situe, his demeanor respectful. Ma'am, I apologize sincerely for what occurred. Is there anything we can do to make your flight more comfortable? The woman smiled softly. A glass of water would be nice. He nodded immediately. Of course. As Allison retreated toward the galley, eyes downcast, the cabin atmosphere shifted. What had begun as humiliation transformed into something else, something heavier and more instructive. Passengers watched the woman not with curiosity now, but with respect. The flight settled into calm cruising altitude. The woman sipped her water, gazing out at the endless blue. Power, she reflected, wasn't about titles or ownership. It was about dignity, about knowing when to speak and when to let truth reveal itself. A child, a few rows back, leaned forward. Mom, she whispered loudly, that lady is brave. The woman heard and smiled to herself. When the plane landed hours later, applause broke out softly as the seatbelt sign turned off. The woman stood, collected her bag, and waited patiently to disembark like everyone else. The purser stepped aside, giving her a small bow of respect. Thank you for flying with us, he said. She met his eyes. Thank you for listening. As she walked down the jet bridge, she didn't look back. She didn't need to. The lesson had already taken flight, carried by every witness who would remember that day, when judgment was challenged and quiet strength won. At 30,000 feet, outside the terminal windows, sunlight spilled across the tarmac, and the woman paused briefly, feeling the weight of the moment settle behind her like a closed door. She knew the story would spread, clipped and exaggerated, retold in break rooms and online threads. Some would cheer, some would doubt, and some would miss the point entirely. What mattered was simpler. Respect should never be conditional. It should not depend on appearance, status, or secret lineage. As she walked through the terminal, her phone buzzed. A message from her father appeared, brief and understanding. Proud of you. Dinner soon. She smiled, tucking the phone away. He had raised her to understand systems from the inside, to recognize how power could protect or harm, depending on who wielded it. Today had been a reminder of why accountability mattered. Behind her, Allison exited with a supervisor, eyes rimmed red, uniform suddenly heavy. The woman did not gloat, did not stare. Consequences, she believed, should educate, not entertain. Still, she hoped the lesson would linger, reshaping how Allison saw the world and the people moving through it. In the baggage claim area, a man approached hesitantly. Excuse me, he said. I just wanted to say thank you. My daughter struggles with confidence, and seeing you stand your ground meant a lot. The woman nodded. I'm glad, she replied. Tell her she doesn't need permission to take up space. He smiled, eyes shining, and stepped back into the crowd. Later, as traffic hummed outside and travelers dispersed, the incident already felt distant, like turbulence past. Yet its echo remained, carried in small moments of courage yet to come. Somewhere, a crew member would think twice before speaking. Somewhere, a passenger would speak up sooner. Change, she knew, rarely arrived with applause. It arrived quietly, one corrected assumption at a time. That night, at home, she hung her coat and poured a cup of tea, watching steam curl upward. The world would keep testing her, testing everyone, with moments that demanded choice. She hoped she would always choose calm over cruelty, truth over comfort, and dignity over silence. Above all, she hoped that the next time someone boarded a plane, or entered a room, or claimed a seat they had earned, no one would feel entitled to tell them they did not belong. And if they did, she trusted that someone, somewhere, would be ready to press the call button. Breathe deep and remind the world that fairness does not require an invitation. Days later, the airline released a statement outlining new training measures emphasizing inclusion and respect. It was carefully worded, corporate, yet necessary. The woman read it without satisfaction or resentment, understanding that progress often wore bland clothing. Policies changed because people spoke, because silence broke. On another flight weeks later, she sat in economy by choice, chatting with a nervous first-time flyer. They laughed over spilled peanuts and shared stories of missed connections and unexpected kindness. The sky outside looked the same from every seat, vast and indifferent to class. She thought of all the invisible moments that never made headlines, the small humiliations absorbed and forgotten. Those were the moments she wanted to erase, replace with ordinary decency. It was not about winning. It was about belonging. As the plane lifted, she closed her eyes, listening to the engine's roar, steady and sure. Somewhere between ground and cloud, she felt light, unburdened. The world was imperfect, but it could learn. She believed that, fiercely, and she carried that belief with her, wherever she flew. In quiet moments, she replayed the scene not with anger, but with curiosity. How easily authority could slip into arrogance. How quickly assumptions hardened into rules that never existed. She hoped future flights would be remembered for smooth landings instead of sharp words. Her work continued, meetings blending into projects, yet the message from that day stayed clear. Visibility mattered. Speaking calmly mattered. Letting systems confront their own reflection mattered most of all. One evening, she received an email from a young attendant in training, thanking her for inspiring a discussion in class. The woman typed back a simple response, wishing her courage and kindness. That felt like enough. Life moved forward, as it always did, but a small line had been drawn in the sky, invisible yet real, and she knew that whenever she buckled the seatbelt, wherever she sat, she belonged there. Fully, unapologetically, just like everyone else. The memory became a compass, subtle but steady, guiding her reactions when patience wore thin. She learned that strength did not need volume, only clarity. Every journey after carried that lesson forward, stitched into routine moments. When she smiled at strangers or offered help, it felt intentional. She understood that dignity traveled light, requiring no announcement. And so, with each departure and arrival, she trusted that the skies would slowly reflect the fairness people practiced on the ground. The story ended without shouting, only understanding, carried onward by those willing to notice, remember, and choose better next time. For everyone involved, lessons lingered long after, endlessly.